and good evening, and welcome to Crossroads Radio and Podcast Show. Oh, that was a good tune. I was dancing there over the tunes, and anyway, thank you very much for joining me. And don't forget, guys, after Jane Buckle tonight, after 9:30, there's going to be more music on Crossroads. And don't forget, there's going to be 60s, 70s, and that will take you up through all night until breakfast in the morning. And I hope you enjoy that. In the meantime, I've got Lois with me. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And how are you?
I am brilliant. Look, I am really, really good. Now, tell everybody about yourself.
Well, I call myself your friend for forgiveness. And what I do is I invite people to come and smile with me. So it's my acronym that explains what I do. The S is I'm a speaker and storyteller. I'm a published author and I have a TEDx talk. The M is I'm a mentor. I is inspiring. L is I'm a learning facilitator. I teach using various methods. And the E is I'm an empowering coach. So that is what I do. And I've been doing it mostly in the corporate space for 40 odd years. I've done it in the corporate space, but in the last couple of years, I have done life coaching and working in the personal space.
Brilliant, very good. That is quite a lot. So we've got a smile. So everybody smile tonight, and everybody on the radio. I know I can't see you, but please smile. I know you're out there, and I know no, I don't want anybody miserable. I don't want any miserable. I want everybody to smile and enjoy your life. Anyway, I tell you what. So if I come to you as a client and I say to you, right, okay, how can you help me? How can you help me?
Well, the first thing is we need to know what your situation is and why you feel you need help. So I have a model where when people have gone through some kind of a trauma, and it could be any major change, any adversity, any challenge that they've experienced, anything from the death of a loved one, an accident, the loss of a job, a violent attack, a burglary, anything that has really impacted on them emotionally. I invite them to come and talk to me about it. We discuss where they are on their journey of healing. And we start by saying, okay, you're a victim. You start off by being a victim because you are a victim. Something happened to you, and you've got all those negative emotions associated with being a victim. So it's the anger, the fear, the frustration, the pain, the guilt, the blame, all of those emotions. And so we start there and we say, okay, where are you? Are you still a victim or have you progressed? Are you further up on your journey of healing?
Right. Okay. That is really good. So you take people on a journey, really, don't you?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. You take people on a journey, and and with your storytelling, what you do, what kind of storytelling do you do?
Well, it's my life stories, and I've lived a very full and active and adventurous and interesting life. So I have stories from business, stories from my personal life, and of course, my big main story is my story of having been attacked, brutally attacked, and raped, and tied up and left to bleed to death.
Right. And that's what I really want to talk about, if you don't mind.
No, not
Um,
at all.
and because we can talk about everything else later on, because we always ask people to come back. Um, Tell me, let's go back to the start. Tell me what actually happened that particular day.
Well, it was in the evening. I was in a partnership in a small digital printing business, and my partner had gone away on leave, and I was working late one night. I was sitting in the secure courtyard, beautiful summer's evening. I was sitting outside working. The radio was playing, And the first that I was aware that there was an intruder was he had scrambled over our 8-foot wall, and he had his arm around my neck and a screwdriver in my neck. And I fought him. I did everything I knew how to fight. I fought him. He took the glass off the table. He broke it. He came at me to my chest and my stomach. He had stabbed me numerous times in my ear, in my throat, in my mouth. And when he came at me with the glass, I thought, now he's going to cut me and leave me for dead. And so I stopped fighting. And he tied me up, he stole my car, and he left. But fortunately, I had grabbed a piece of the glass and I held it in my hand. So I managed to cut myself free, and I managed to phone the police.
Right. Okay. Now, where did the rape come in?
Well, when he attacked me, when I stopped fighting him, that is when he raped me.
Right. Right. And because there's going to be a lot of people will say now about, because like when you started fighting, where you kind of, if you started fighting, where you kind of like, was you tied up while you were being raped?
No, I stopped fighting. I just thought I'd rather live and be raped than die. So I stopped fighting at that point.
Right. Okay. Okay. So
He tied me.
so
He tied me up afterwards.
yeah, yeah, that's terrible. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. But but the trouble is, you see, a lot of people will say, if it was secure, it was an 8 foot wall, and if you were in that situation, you know, um, were there any kind of like security around or doors around, or
No, there was, it was a secure, well, I thought it was a secure building. We did have a security company that rode past every now and again. In fact, the night before, they had parked outside my premises for a while. So, I felt very secure there. Uh, I don't know how he managed to get over the wall, but he did.
right?
So,
Okay. And did the perpetrator kind of like get caught in the end?
sorry, I missed that.
Did the perpetrator get caught in the end?
Yes, he got caught almost immediately. When I phoned the police, they were onto it immediately, and they caught him. There was a bit of a shootout. He was in my car, and he was swerving all over the road, and they shot at him, and they caught him. So yeah, it was quite incredible, because the first people on the scene was a couple, a male and a female sergeants were the first two on the scene, and she knew exactly what I needed. She stemmed the flow of blood. She made sure that I was secure and safe, and then she just said to me the words I needed to hear was, "We got him."
Mm,
And
mm,
it's such a relief. I feel so badly for those people who've been violently hurt or raped or attacked,
mm.
and the perpetrators never caught. It must be so hurtful and frustrating knowing that that person is still walking around the streets. So I was very grateful for that.
Now, when everything was over done with, did you get did you get any flashbacks? Did you had to seek help? What happened next?
Well, this happened some 25 years ago now, and it happened at a time where the word rape was never discussed in polite circles. People didn't use that word. You didn't talk about it because it didn't happen to us. It just,
Yeah, yeah,
well, it did, but nobody ever spoke about it. It was way before the Me Too movement. And so it was just not anything that was in our sort of conscious minds. So I was so angry, as anybody would be, but I was so angry that this would come into my space. And so two things happened. I decided I have to share the story with the world. They need to know that this happens to everyday people. And I started writing a journal that very night with every intention of publishing it so that people could learn that this happens to ordinary people. And because I was so angry, I became an activist and I led marches through the streets and I lobbied and I petitioned and I went to police commissioners and judges and I was out there making as much noise as I could because I really wanted to change the world. It was at a time in South Africa where we were going through the change from apartheid to democracy, and they were calling for new submissions for a new constitution. And the rapist was out on bail for rape. And so I was determined to do whatever I could to change the law and to get some changes made to the constitution. And so that was my driving force to go and make a difference.
Right. Okay. And did you did when you wanted to talk about and get the story out there? Did you contact any of the media?
I did. I was in the paper, I was on television. So I was making as much noise as I could about the situation.
And well done for that. And plus you got an MBE, didn't you?
Sorry?
Did you get an MBE?
A what?
An MBE.
An MBE?
Yeah.
No.
All right. I've got my notes wrong then. Okay.
No. I say that I've got an MBE in my life, my qualifications. MBE is a master's by experience.
Ah, right. Okay. Okay. So, okay. So, when you kind of like, when you were kind, how are you today? How do you feel today after all that? I know it's like 20 odd years ago, but how are you today?
I am fantastic. And it's a journey. It took me a journey to get here. When you're faced with all that trauma, and the problem is because I became an activist, I didn't deal with my trauma. I was just focused on changing the world rather than focusing on me and my recovery. And so I never dealt with the anger, the pain, the blame, the guilt, all of those feelings. And about 2 years later, I suddenly had this major back problem. I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't walk. And basically, what had happened was while I was being this activist, everybody was saying to me, "We're so proud of you. You're so strong. You're so brave. You're so strong. You're so brave." And I felt pretty good. Look how strong and brave I am. But 2 years later, I landed up now bedridden, and it was pointed out to me that it was psychosomatic. There was nothing wrong with me because what was happening, because I wasn't facing my problems, I was putting them on my back. I was putting them behind me so I didn't have to face them. I put them behind me and I put them behind me until eventually my back collapsed and I could lie in bed and I could be weak. And that was a great realization for me, the importance of dealing with your trauma when it happens, dealing with those negative emotions. Because if you don't deal with them, they go into your subconscious and they come back and they trigger you later. And so I did some inner work, I did some mind work. The surgeons had told me I had two failed back operations, and the surgeon told me that I would never hike or scuba dive again, which were my two passions at the time, because I could never carry anything on my back again. And I did this inner work, this psychological work, and then I went for 8 chiropractic treatments, and I did a 5-day hike with a 29-kilogram backpack on my back.
Gosh, gosh. And also, am I right of saying that with the work, the coaching you do and everything, um, do you touch on well-being too, don't you?
Yes. So I've developed a model where, based on my own experience, not only from this misadventure, but from all the other trauma that I faced in my life. So basically, I've discovered that you become a victim with all the associated negative emotions, and then you have to deal with those emotions, manage those emotions, and then you develop resilience. And resilience is building back to where you were before. You'll never quite be the same to where you were before the adversity happened, but you get back to some kind of meaningful life and you become a survivor. And to me, survivor is still a struggle. When people say I'm a survivor or I survived something, it means, well, I'm coping, I'm managing. Um, so to build a resilience, you've got to re-look at everything. You've got to refocus and re-energize and redirect your energies. And then you become the survivor. And then from there, you need to develop your grit. So grit is your where you develop new aspirations and new goals and new direction, and you focus on a future, and you go forward to that future with persistence and passion and perseverance, and that's when you become a thriver. And that's a really good place to be, because now you become empowered, you have some level of success. You may develop a growth mindset or post-traumatic growth mindset, which is where you say, okay, I'm going to use what I've experienced. I've learned from this experience. I've become a better person from it. I'm changing my life because of it. And you start learning about the impact of that experience. And then, like some of us, and I heard some of your earlier speakers today, we develop a benefit mindset where we say, how can I help other people? What can I do to support other people who are going through a similar experience? And so many of us who've been through such trauma do develop that benefit mindset, because we realize that it's so important that you're not alone, that there is somebody there to guide you, to support you through the healing journey.
Yes, yeah, and that's right. Let me take some questions from the radio, and there's some questions here for you. Hi, Steve. Can you ask how long how long has Lois been doing coaching?
I've been doing coaching in the corporate space for 15 years or so, but in the personal space, in the life coaching, for only 3 years.
Okay. I Steve, has Lois got any books? We were going to touch on that in a minute, actually.
Yes, I've written a book, and unfortunately, the radio people can't see it. I'm holding it up. It's called Walking Without Skin, and it's a journey of healing from fear to forgiveness to freedom. So it started, as I said earlier, that I started writing the journal on the very first night when it happened, and I wrote it as a journal with the intention of publishing it as a journal. But it took me 25 years to publish. And of course, it's now changed its format. It still has the journal element. So it's very raw and revealing, because it shows my state of mind as I was going through the healing journey. But it's now also interspersed with the tips and the lessons that I've subsequently established. So it becomes part journal, part memoir, and part self-help guide, because it takes you through those phases from victim to survivor to thriver, and then beyond to freedom. And the freedom part of it came 14 years later, after I was attacked. I left the country 13 years later, and I was living in the Middle East, and I was coming home for my first holiday. And in those previous 14 years, I had never really given much thought. The perpetrator was given a 25-year prison sentence. And in that time, I'd never really considered, was he in, was he out, was he dead, was he alive? And I'd never contacted the authorities to try and find out. But for some reason, coming home for my holiday, I thought I would find out. So I contacted the authorities, and they told me that he was up for a parole hearing the day after I arrived in the country. And that was it was just such a coincidence. It was just too much of a coincidence. And in addition, the law had just changed, allowing what they call victims of serious crime to attend parole hearings. And so the universe had spoken to me, the synchronicity. It was just, I had to go to this parole hearing. So, against the advice of family and friends, I went to the parole hearing. And I went into the prison. I was the first person in South Africa to attend one of these new parole hearings. So they were totally unprepared for me. They didn't quite know how to manage the situation. But I went into the prison, and after they'd gone through all the proceedings, they asked me if I had anything to say. And I said yes. And I had prepared a speech, which I started reading, but it was really academic. And he had a grade 6 education, and English was not his first language. And so I don't think he really understood what I was reading. So I just looked him in the eyes and I said, I compassionately and completely forgive you. And I take the responsibility from my higher self and I hand it back to your higher self, and I take back my power. And as I said, as I just knew that I meant it. And the authorities said to me they would tell me in 7 days if he got parole or not. And I just said, no, I don't want to know. I don't need to know, because that forgiveness had broken that bond so completely. It had broken that tie between him and me absolutely completely, that I didn't walk out of that prison. I flew out of that prison completely free of that incident. And you started by asking how I was today, and that is why today I'm great, because I no longer get triggered. I don't get upset anymore, because I've truly and completely let it go, and I've become free.
And that's good. And also, you've forgiven him. And sometimes to forgive people, it's hard to do in that.
It is hard to do, if you're in the wrong place. So if you're a victim or you're a survivor, it's very difficult to forgive because you're still dealing with your own emotions and your own problems. So how can you think about forgiving somebody else when you're not in a good place yourself? So when you become a thriver, that is where you can say, okay, I'm now in a good place. I now am in a position where I can forgive. And it's not only forgiving the perpetrator, it's forgiving yourself as well.
Yeah, of
I
course.
had to forgive myself. I didn't know how to fight. So I had a lot of guilt. Oh, if only I'd known how to fight. If only I'd known a few techniques, I could have beaten him. I had feelings of hate. I really hated him. And what good did that do for him? It harmed me. It made me
Of course,
anxious
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
stressed. And I also started drinking and eating too much. So I had to forgive myself for those behaviors. So it's not only forgiving the perpetrator, it's forgiving yourself as well.
And well done for that. Now, where can people get your book?
My book is on Amazon, and you can find it Walking Without Skin, very easy to remember. And I have a web page and a Facebook page by the same name, Walking Without Skin. So you will easily find me.
Brilliant. And I tell you what, and what we'll do next time, I want, if I can, if that is okay with you, I'd love you to come back so we can talk about your book.
I'd love that. That would be great.
Okay, I will get my wife to book you in because she does all my bookings and stuff, and we'll get you in. Okay, guys, don't forget, get the book. Um, when I looked at it earlier, I only had to look at the first few pages, and yes, it was really very interesting. Go and get it on
And I would
Amazon.
like to, I would like to invite anybody who wants a free 30-minute consultation. They're welcome to contact me. They can contact me through those mediums, through the web or Facebook. And I also invite everybody to fly free.
There you go, fly free. And thank you very much. You gotta fly free, and be free. Well done, and all the best. I'll tell you what we do. Don't forget, guys, crossroads.co, and on there you can see everything, and all of the Lois's details will be on there about our website and everything that will be on there soon I finish tonight. Do we get in a minute? We've got a wonderful guest. Do you remember Marmalade from in the 1960s? That group Marmalade. Well, we got Alan Whitehead here tonight, and he was the drummer of. He was the drummer. So that'll be coming up in a few minutes. In the meantime, guys, see you in a minute, and bye bye for now. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
That's okay. You're welcome.